Time now for a look at what's making headlines in today's newspapers, and for that, I'm joined by Allison Sargent. Allison, we're starting here in France for reactions to what was a big weekend for French politics.
That's right, Claire. The 2022 presidential race heated up a notch. That's according to Libération on their front page today. Now that the right-wing Les Républicains party has chosen their candidate, well, we have the full lineup there of the 6 main candidates vying to take on Emmanuel Macron. The only gap left to be filled, of course, is Emmanuel Macron himself, since he has not yet formally announced that he's running, although he is very much expected to do so. Now, on Sunday, far-right Eric Zemmour held what Libération calls a sickening first campaign rally. In their headline here, the paper writes that it was just a little bit terrifying, which seems to be an understatement coming from Libération. It's also a play on words between brun, which is a little bit, and then brun, or brown, which is meant to evoke the color of Nazi uniforms, a color very much associated with fascism. The paper also notes that Zemmour's rally saw unprecedented violence for this type of political event. Anti-racism protesters were beaten up by some of his supporters in a scene that Libération describes as a quasi-lynching.
Startling as that rally may have been, most French papers are actually focusing on right-wing candidate Valérie Pécresse.
Yeah, this weekend she made history as the first ever female candidate to be chosen by the right-wing Les Républicains party, a fact that right-wing paper Le Figaro says adds some modernity to the party. Le Figaro writes that it will be a long road for Pécresse, who's polling behind both Marine Le Pen and Eric Zemmour, as well as behind Emmanuel Macron. But they say if she sticks to the right's political message, she is capable of competing with Emmanuel Macron and of bringing the party back from the political death that it suffered back in 2017. Meanwhile, in the cartoon by CAC on the front page of L'Opinion, we see Valérie Pécresse alongside the race's other female candidates. Socialist Anne Hidalgo looks pretty upset. She's saying another woman, Marine Le Pen, is finishing her sentence, another woman on the left. Now, Pécresse may be to the left of Marine Le Pen, but she's definitely not considered on the left. The cartoon, though, sort of sums up L'Opinion's main message today, which is that while Pécresse is on the right, she is essentially a centrist in this race. It puts her in a really tricky position of battling Emmanuel Macron, who is slightly to the left of her, and then also battling Zemmour and Le Pen on the right. So L'Opinion is sort of wondering if Valérie Pécresse is going to be able to carve out her own space in this race.
All right, let's move away from French politics now. Papers across Europe are praising Pope Francis for his strong words to EU leaders about refugees.
Pope Francis was visiting refugees on the Greek island of Lesbos on Sunday. We read on the front page of Swiss paper Le Temps that he called on European leaders to stop this shipwreck of civilization. He lamented that Europe continues to be torn apart by what he called nationalist egos, which are blocking action on helping refugees. Now, France's Catholic paper La Croix headlines on the Pope's anger against Europe. The paper writes that perhaps like a prophet, Pope Francis is forcing Europe to face its contradictions as being a region that promotes human rights but is failing to respect them on its own territory.
Now, meanwhile, in the U.S., a Republican congressman from Kentucky is facing criticism on social media for a Christmas photo that he posted.
That's right, Claire, and you'll understand why he's getting so much criticism when you take a look at this photo. It shows him and what appears to be his family posing with an assortment of guns. The caption that he tweeted with this photo was Merry Christmas, P.S. Santa, please bring ammo. Now, as The Guardian explains, this post was particularly appalling since it came just days after 4 teenagers were killed in a school shooting in Michigan. This photo drew a wave of condemnation with some pretty heartbreaking responses coming from parents who've lost their children to gun violence. One father whose daughter was killed in the Parkland shooting responded to the post saying, hey, here are some of my family photos. One of them was of his daughter and the other one was of her gravestone.
So yeah, strong reactions there. But Allison, you do have one more story for us to end on a bit of a lighter note. French papers reporting that oysters are getting vaccinated?
That's right, Claire. Now, they're not getting vaccinated against the coronavirus. They're actually getting vaccinated against herpes. Le Parisien explains that herpes has been known to decimate entire populations of European oysters, one of the major holiday foods for a lot of people here in France. Luckily, though, French scientists have developed a revolutionary pseudo-vaccine capable of protecting the shellfish from herpes. Now, it's a pseudo-vaccine because oysters don't actually have antibodies, so it's not exactly like a human vaccine, even if it functions somewhat similarly. Le Parisien notes that there's some concern, actually, that anti-vaccine sentiment is going to result in people not wanting to eat the vaccinated oysters. Researchers, though, say that they are healthy and safe to eat. And for all of those out there who may be wondering, no, humans cannot contract herpes from oysters.
Well, that's good to know. Here in France, a lot of people eat oysters for the winter holidays. So thanks for that, Allison Sargent, for the press review.